All right, Coach. Just gonna have you start off with your opening statement. Just wrapping up last week, and just you guys' focus is going into these last two of the road stand that you guys are currently on with La Tech and you got UTEP this weekend.
Yeah, last week, obviously, again, a little bit of the same of the prior week. Didn't play well enough to win. Saturday was pretty disappointing overall. Just didn't get. We got off to a pretty decent start. I think we were ahead 8-0, and then just really didn't go. Anything didn't go right from there on. Got down, got in a hole, and really against them on that particular day, we just didn't fight out of it, or couldn't fight out of it like we had been when we were getting down prior. So we're in a bad stretch right now for sure. Maybe one of the worst stretches that I've been associated with as a coach. And you just gotta keep fighting, gotta keep plugging, gotta keep trying to find ways to win a game. I do think that if we can just find a way to snap it and get back to maybe getting some confidence and winning, that there's a chance that we can get into this tournament and still make some noise.
Just you guys are writing a 4-game slide. What's, I guess, one common thread you've kind of seen during this tough stretch for you guys?
I think
you could pinpoint one.
Yeah, just really the same stuff that has really kind of hindered us all year long when we haven't played well. We just not really guarding the way we need to get stops when we need to get stops, and I think it obviously on Saturday really affected our offense. I thought we were pretty stagnant offensively on Saturday, and a lot of that was due to we executed pretty well early and got some shots inside, but we didn't make any threes early in the first half, and I thought that really affected us the rest of the game. I think we ended up 2 for 16, which was probably our worst shooting performance of the season. So, I think sometimes when it rains, it pours, and, just trying to find a glimmer of, something positive, in order to get us going in the right direction.
Coach, what do you think might be the key to try and turn these games that you guys you're right in it in the second half? It just down the stretch, it seems like things aren't falling your way. Your other teams are pulling away from you guys.
Yeah, it's a really good question by you, and at the end of the day, I hate to be rude and sound monotonous, but I think I've told y'all this 1,000 times. When things are tough in life and things go hard, it just takes toughness. It takes grit. I don't know, what you've done in your past or in your life, but if you've had any kind of association with sports and you've ever played, if you were a baseball player, I know I was, and I know I went through a stretch where I was 0 for 20 or 0 for 10, or you get up to bat and sometimes you hit 5 balls like a rocket and it goes right to the shortstop, and you go back to the dugout and you're just like, man, my dad always used to say, it's amazing how you can make a Hall of Fame getting something right 3 out of 10 times. And so, I've said this and over again, but when the moment is there and things are hard and tough, we have to be tougher, and we have to be resilient. And I just think that sometimes those things have eluded us as a whole, and for me, frustrating, because I've coached now. This is my 16th year, and probably I can only say that about 2 out of the 16 times where we just haven't responded the way we needed to. And it's interesting because we've had a lot of come to Jesuses, and we've talked and we've evaluated ourselves, and it just seems to be the common theme from our own guys to each other. And so that's just kind of an issue or a problem that we just got to get resolved. And look, at the end of the day, I got to keep coaching. I got to keep trying to grow young men. But those guys in there know what they need to do, and they've held each other accountable by talking about it. But now they just got to go out and they got to do it.
What do you feel like were some particular points of struggle against Kansas State that you guys want to improve on?
Well, I thought they were really physical with us. I thought they were, they really denied us and really got up in us, and their strength and athleticism was at a forefront, I thought, that day. And sometimes when you're playing against that, you have to offset it by moving the ball better, running your stuff better, doing some of those things to offset maybe some of their physical talent. And then again, just things kind of didn't go our way, and we just got a little bit, I think, probably focus-wise, we lost a little of that. I do think there's always a chance that, when you start losing early like that, there's a here we go again, and that's the thing I got to keep trying to get across to them is, we talked a little bit yesterday when we got back from the airport about, at December the 28th, at 4 o'clock on December the 28th, we were 8-3 and 1-0, and since then we're whatever 2-8 or whatever we are, and so just trying to figure out that, like, we had a guy, we had them all write down some things and talk about those things in front of each other, and it's a common theme with everybody. It's not something I'm going to share with the media or in public, but it's a common theme with everybody, and I just think that sometimes it's just easy to talk about changes, and you just have to make those changes personally.
Was it like been trying to maintain those high spirits, positive morale, things like that during this tough stretch of the season?
Yeah, I thought Saturday maybe was the first time where we got a little bit down, but I just think other than that, our guys have really been fighting, and they'll continue to do that. My teams have always done that. We need something good for us to happen for sure. Being able to maybe go on the road and find a road win would be really positive for us and get us back to 500 and give us a little bit maybe of some momentum going into a big game Saturday. But you can't talk about it. You know what you got to do, and you just got to go out there and you got to accomplish it, and you got to get it done.
What do you think of Sear and Augustine's performances this past week against Kennesaw State?
Yeah, I mean, as a staff, I think again we've tried a little bit of everything. Those two guys both know what they need to do. Augustine is still young, and he makes a lot of mistakes, but that's part of growing and being a freshman. But I did think he had some really positive minutes there late in the game. And, look, Sear's an older guy. I've talked to Sear 1,000 times. And, for Sear, I think, he knows what he needs to do. It's just a matter of whether or not he can make some of those changes. And, he's a junior. So, at this point in time, after this year, he'll only have 1 year of basketball left in college. And so, I think you start looking to see, hey, look, you're going to have to make these changes, and if you can't, then you're probably not going to be, where you want to be. And so, I did think he gave us a little bit of some positive in there. Got a couple rebounds and some putbacks and some things that he had done early in the year. I just think that right now, a lot of his inconsistency is kind of, right now who he is, and he's got to have to change that.
What kind of buttons, as you described, kind of changing lineups in the past, do you feel like are left to push going forward in terms of lineup changes and rotation stuff?
Yeah, there's always, there's always buttons you can push. You could probably put 50 different lineups together if you wanted to, and you could change positions and you could change everything, and I think as a coach you don't ever stop trying. I think when you stop trying is when you quit, and I'm never going to do that. So we just got to keep finding ways to motivate different guys. I think sometimes too, collectively your group can be affected by certain things or certain guys, and so we have to be careful with that as well. Trying to get those certain guys to do what needs to be done for the team, in order so that it doesn't overall take your team over. And I think we've had some of those moments, and we have to get these guys to understand that obviously, you have to do it together. And look, I think moving forward in the future, I've learned a lot. I think the biggest thing that you're learning and you're trying to understand and cope with is the portal, and trying to find those guys that fit the right things. And we've got to continue to work at that, and we've got to continue to get these guys to understand those things. Like, you're not going to win a game one-on-one. You know, you're just not going to do it. You're not going to win a game taking bad shots, and you know, you got to play together. And then you also have to do the things that it takes to win. You know, one of our coaches commented yesterday, and we let everybody speak, you know, in our program. I think everybody needs to have a piece and a word, you know, that's the managers and, you know, the strength coach and the trainers and everybody, because everybody has a different view of what they see. But it was interesting, one of our coaches talked about just being willing to do the little things that it takes to win. You know, sometimes that might be just getting a loose ball, taking a charge, getting an extra rebound. You know, doesn't all necessarily be whether you score or whether you're making a lot of baskets or not. So just a lot of those things that we just gotta figure out. And you know, the window's closing. We got 9 games left, and you know, right now, I guess if it ended today, which I haven't really, to be honest with you, even looked at the schedule or looked at the standings, but I'm assuming, I guess today, if it ended, we wouldn't be in the tournament. So, but we have 9 games left. That's a lot of basketball, and there's a lot of teams that are cooped right around us, a lot. And so, and we play a lot of those teams still. So we can kind of control our own destiny, but that's not going to change if we don't play better.
Coach, you mentioned kind of a log jam within Conference USA right now. How can the game against UTEP, against a rival, maybe try and spark a little bit of just some kind of energy and some juice into this team down the stretch?
Yeah, these press conferences are always difficult, having, you know, obviously 2 games this week. I'm not really looking at UTEP yet. I got to worry about Louisiana Tech. I mean, they're really good. You know, it's going to be a tough game. It's on the road. They're 5-0 in conference at home. They're 0-5 on the road, so a little bit like some of the other teams, you know, in the league. Yeah, I mean, any kind of game right now, I think, or any win would spark us. I mean, we all know what that game is about for all the people in both communities, and how, you know, how much it means to everyone. So, I mean, the stakes are always high, and the energy level, and then, you know, the crowds and intensity, we're always pretty magnified in that game. So that game, I think, will speak for itself and take care of itself when Saturday comes. But again, right now, my focus is on Louisiana Tech and really just trying to get our basketball team to play better.
You guys have the 9 games left, like you talked about. How much did you use wins earlier this year against good teams like New Mexico, UC Irvine, Sam Houston to give you confidence knowing that, hey, we can compete with anybody?
Yeah, I mean, listen, like I said, I wrote down on the board, you know, December the 21st at 4 o'clock, we were 7-3 and 1-0. We took 4 days off, and we came back. We played a really team that we should beat bad, and we did. And so then we were 8-3 and 1-0. Somewhere in there, you know, I don't know what happened. You know, if I did, I wouldn't be, you know, probably in the state of mind or frame or, you know, mood I'm in right now. I don't know what happened. I don't know how to explain it. I kind of know, but it's just really not something that I'm probably going to talk a lot about. You know, again, hard is tough in life, you know, and sometimes, you know, I think if every one of our soldiers, every time we went to war, you know, got shot at, and they would probably, you know, went home, we wouldn't, you know, we wouldn't have an America, and we wouldn't be where we're at, right? So I just think that, you know, sometimes as a soldier, you got to get down in that foxhole, and when it really gets hard and it gets tough is when you see who you are and you figure those things out. We still have a chance to do that. You know, that doesn't end, and you know what? It's not going to end after these 9 games, because a lot of the stuff that we've talked to our team about this year is really about life. You know, because look, when you leave here, life's going to be hard. It's not easy. You're going to have to go get a job. There's no guarantee you're going to play professional basketball after this year. There's no guarantee that some of those guys sitting in that locker room right now aren't going to make more money next year in a real job than they're making right now. So, you know, those are things that you're going to face, reality, and it's tough. And so we try to prepare them for that. And, you know, I know basketball's just a game. It's something that we do. It's something that we love, but has a lot of comparison to life, for sure. And so, you know, just trying to get them to understand that, I mean, listen, I've been doing this for a long time. It's not something I haven't already tried before. You know, we just got to figure out what works with this group, you know, because sometimes things work differently with each group. But yeah, I mean, we gave them a project to do overnight, and we told them to go watch the New Mexico game and the Sam Houston game and write down 4 things from each game that they see that they don't see now. And so when they get in today for practice, they'll give me that sheet of paper. I've already gotten one of them, and the answers on there are absolutely amazing, because it's really interesting that one of the guys and all the answers he wrote are the same exact answers that I would have written. So that tells you there, you know, you got some guys on your team that understand and they see what needs to be done. But we also understand that a team is a team, and it takes a lot of guys. And if you have 3 or 4 or 5 that aren't doing those things and that don't think that same way, then it makes it very difficult sometimes. And I think that's where we're at right now. I think we got some difficult times right now, and we're trying to get everybody on the same page.
I know you're focused on the La Tech game, and obviously on Saturday you've got UTEP. Joe Golding's over there. I know you've matched up with him plenty of times throughout your coaching career. I guess just how do you go about matching up with someone that you have so much familiarity with and knowing your guys' styles and like, is there anything new or you can bring to the table, or just how do you go about a matchup like that where you guys just, you know a lot about each other's coaching styles? And
I think you don't do that. I think you base your matchup with your team, like how your team is playing or what your team's doing good, or you know what his team's doing good, what you try to take away. So I think that always changes, no matter what our coaches and our styles are and our philosophies are. You know, your team is going to be different every year. You know, his team is definitely struggling as like ours is. I know they got a big win on Saturday, and you know, I'm sure they're feeling better about themselves this week. But for the most part, you know, I know he and I probably have a lot of the same similarities right now, and we're probably having a lot of the same struggles. And I would guess at the end of the year when he and I sat down and we talk, I would guess that our problems are probably going to stem from the same thing. And you know, and that same thing is hard. This is a hard day. It's a hard era, and you know, it's something that you just got to get figured out. But I think at the end of the day, you know, he knows what I like for my teams to be able to do, and I usually know what he likes his teams to be able to do. I think the biggest thing that we're both trying to do right now is get them to do that, and you know, and whether or not they're capable of doing that as well. Good.